The many sides of soul. I want to welcome everyone to another edition of Guidance for the Soul Live. I want to talk about why this title at this point in time. How many of us feel like we're walking a tightrope between our lives on this plane and the other side of the veil? That's where I go. And it is a wild ride, to be sure. I don't often understand what is coming through sometimes for me versus what I'm experiencing in another realm or what is coming to me in the future. That's part of it. Okay. I still do hear messages of guidance and love for those around me. And I've stopped passing along the messages because what I have found is that it is too tricky to navigate the idea of when do we say who we truly are. Okay, this is where a lot of people will go when they go through the process that I have gone through, right? Everyone's process is very unique. I've chosen some challenging situations to navigate. The fear can be tremendous. I would suggest always looking into your hearts and finding those one or two people that you can potentially communicate with that will say, I will listen to you no matter what. I will hear you no matter what. I will assume you are not making things up no matter what. That's the strength of going through a process when you are walking the tightrope between, is this the reality of my life as a soul embodied, or is this another aspect of some other vision that's coming forth to try to warn me or guide me into a different place that is more in alignment with who I really am? Now, sometimes when you hear those visions of this is who you are in another plane, you may not actually enjoy it. It could be because it goes against a value that you hold here. Or maybe there's an inkling of it in your mind, but in your heart you're saying that still doesn't feel right to me, even though I would want it, but do I really think I'll enjoy it? You see, that's the nature, is sometimes those ideas of who we are can get a little confused. And this is why the process can be very tricky for people who aren't even aware that they're in that process of I'm aligning with my higher levels of love. They're not always going to sound loving. Did you have hatred in your heart at one point in time? Did you challenge others with every breath that you took? Were you always challenging others to a duel in the mind? You see, that's kind of who I am in one sense. And it's not about saying there's something wrong with who you are, but it's about understanding that in this culture, we are being told that we are supposed to be somebody that we're not in a lot of ways. I'm going to talk about the nature of the conditioning of our hearts versus which side of me do I reveal. Now, how many people know they have this public side to their vision of who they are on this realm, right? Let's ground ourselves in this identity here. That's going to be part of the process. For those of us who start to wander off into those other levels of understanding, it can be kind of tricky to find ourselves back here and say, whoa, that was a challenge, wasn't it? Okay, I'm grounded is what many people will say. And then when you go through this path of understanding that there's more around us and within us. So that's the nature of the difference that I hold when I say I want my soul or my own higher self. I literally am guiding myself to the inner being of who I am. And that soul is always of you are loved exactly for who you are on this realm in whatever way you're expressing, whether it is hated by everybody or whether it is adored by everybody. Now, I am one of those souls that used to be in the mode of people pleasing everybody. I still do it in some cases, but it's not exactly true. What I show you is the people pleasing part of me, potentially out on the street, or if I come into contact with you. I'm going to be pleasant, I'm going to be understanding. What I will do, though, is if someone is coming at me with some declaration of who they are or who they think I am, that's when I will start to open up and show people the differences in value systems that I hold. I'm very strong in my interpersonal relationships, right? What happens when you go through this process is you start to hear back from the souls that you have created with. And I want you to think carefully what that is. And you will start to hear differences depending on what level of vibration you operate in. If you're feeling blue, try not to go to that place of I'm leaving Las Vegas. That's Nicolas Cage, and Meg Ryan is still there too, but that's a different vision. I hear from celebrities trying to align me with who they are on a soul level because of who I am, and that I don't disrespect any vision other than, are you trying to force me to be like you? Are you trying to say there's something wrong with who I am in my beauty? How many? It's like the appliance store owners also here. I have a soul who says, I was the appliance store owner who you wondered about. Okay, it could be simple. I get a lot of soul data brought to me, and I want people to understand it's not that process that a lot of people are going to go through unless they start to take on that vision of, I'm of multidimensional understanding. Most people are just trying to make it to what they would consider to be either a heavenly type vision. Most will not want to go there in essence because they assume that's, after they have passed. Or in the spiritual alignment, many are thinking they're of the I'm in gold. It's like I'm Goldie Hawn as well. That's another soul that's backing me up. But it's literally the 5D aspect that a lot of people in the spiritual enlightenment are either headed for or have heard of. This idea of dimensional awareness. We're going with the idea of vibration or of frequency bands at this point. Okay, the idea of dimensions and realms are all valid in our heart, but we want to talk about why. Why am I getting all these celebrities? This is what I will ask, right? I have an understanding about why those souls align with who I am. It's because I don't demean their visions on the screen. I don't look at them in the mirror and say, oh, there's something wrong with them just because they have an opinion that I may or may not agree with. See, that's the difference, is that on a soul level, we vibrate with these souls and we say, thank you for showing me who you are, which is in essence an aspect of who we all are. And that's the hardest part for people to understand, especially when we go out, in the streets? So do you want to know about the celebrity visions that we often demean in our minds because we assume they are no better, and that is absolutely true. They have those visions of I am of strength of character in my mind. How many souls know that my public persona and my private is being fortified by Brenda? She doesn't demean their hearts, whether or not they want to reveal who they are or their weaknesses and strengths in the mind. So Brenda will say, I'm coming from a place of love, but I often feel the devastation of those in my family and my friendships because this world is not made for two of us. That's where Some people will go, they will say, I need to be split in two. We're going to start talking about the nature of those souls who are creating from the idea of myself as less than whole. It's not a physical break in your aura. You are contained in your own vessel of love. But it is like the eternal, okay, we're going to talk about that, the eternal validity of the soul. This is the Seth vision. And for those of you who honor who I am, you know I have indeed imbibed upon many a soul's vision. Whenever we read a book or watch a movie, we're creating with those souls as well. From various perspectives, though, because many of us will either highlight their vision as that's one I like, or those are just characters in a play. That's where that nature comes from. We're all characters in the play. We all have these visions of love that we caretake in our hearts, right? That's why those souls come into my vision, because I'm not going to demean who they are. I'm just going to ask for the respect that's being given to them. Now, when I don't give respect to them, which it has happened in many a case, when I am being felt like I'm being demeaned in my mind versus here is a perspective that you may not like. How many people understand that when they look at the view of what a Trump supporter is versus a, Biden supporter? Okay, they all have their own beautiful views of what is or isn't right for them in their minds. Now, the difference is when we have those kinds of visions, your soul wouldn't say anything necessarily about who you support in the mindset unless that vision is somehow leading you down a path of destruction. How many people love that idea? Does my political agenda lead me down a place of destruction? Most people don't, unless you decide to take matters in your own hands, for instance, and start caretaking others who are about to do crimes. That's when you might want to start paying attention. But in this view of love, we're going to talk about the nature of trying to help those of you who are starting to feel the vibration of love for yourselves. And always honor it. Don't get triggered by my guidance, right? How many people are saying, no, it's not about triggering, I just understand it. That's a great place to go, knowing that it's like we can't possibly understand fully another person's soul vision, either in this plane or from another level, but you do get various planes of understanding. This is the physical plane. Others are going to start to understand the various planes in which we operate. And that's where it can get tricky. If you start going into those higher levels of understanding, it actually feels better for some of us, and others are like, I like staying here. So it's not about saying that when I go travel in the vision of love, that I'm somehow in another place, right? It's like frequencies that I can vibrate in, and the place and time in which I place my future self that comes back to me is why I get those visions of love of my own soul coming through with my future for me. It's not for everybody to do. But it can be an amazing experience when you start to see the future unfold in front of you as it has been told to you. And it could be very little details. It could be people that come into your life. Those are the surprises for Brenda. She never knows who's going to vibrate in her vibration or who is going to decide they want to come across this screen. So with that in mind, let's talk about the nature of helping those who are having a struggle with those vibrational shifts that we're seeing in the world. This is why those videos that can often be seen as less than, because in the minds of many, they would assume that Putin is bad no matter what. Do you want to have access to all souls? That's another question. Many will say, I only aim for one or two souls that are here to bring me the understanding and guidance and love that I cherish and adore. That's a very great place to create from. And when you go into the vision of I love who I am, and your soul will start to speak to you in those whispers, as long as they are loving, right? That's the nature where you have to have something that helps either lift you up, or you have to have a way in which you know, I need to challenge anything that doesn't sound loving. It can be an opinion, right? If it sounds like an opinion, it is not of the highest. If it is just a suggestion, loving guidance, that's what we operate under. But when you're asked for soul vision for another, their soul isn't necessarily going to be in that vibration of, oh, I have a lot to say, I just don't feel like I want to bring it through at this moment. Okay, that's the nature of love of all. Many people will assume that the people on this plane are less than those on the other side of the veil. That's not always correct. Do you want to know what you may or may not hear family members admiring you from the other side of the veil? You may or may not hear that, or people that you don't even know who are giving you the congratulations for doing the work that is needed on this side of the veil. We're here to open up our hearts to those who want to know more about their own soul vision. You see, are you going to get labeled anything other than beautiful, right? Others will say, let's think about the vision in which we look at other souls. Are they being told they're bad when their own souls come through for them? So for those of you that are potentially worried about what might come through for you, it doesn't mean it's of the highest. Okay, when you go, you have to understand that's the nature of the beauty of who I am. I don't always operate in the mindset of God, right? I'm not here just to bring about the vision of the future or of the past, but they do combine beautifully for me. I know how to do both, and it can get a little tricky for most. How many of us are placing our visions on past versus what's coming up for us in the next edition, right? I already know what's coming up because I already have another vision that was brought through previously, okay? But I'm not going to release everything all at once. Sometimes when we do our soul work, we need to take those breaks, and I want to reinforce that vision for everybody. Sometimes you get so exhausted because we're looking and we're searching and we're hoping and we're praying for some relief from the searching of who we think we are. I want to be the best of the best. How many people want to do that vision? I hear about that. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know if that's a joke or what. And then sometimes I'll say, yes, thank you, I know. That's my ego coming through, right? The ego death is not what people want to go through for the most part. We're good with who we are here. We love who we are. We honor who we are. We don't need to go to that place where I feel like I'm a walking, talking zombie. It can feel that way for some, and I want to honor those visions. Your energy levels are indeed being zapped, but that is one trick of the trade for your soul to let you know there's something going on. If you are in the mindset of I love who I am and I feel so good, do you think that your soul's going to say, great, now I want you to go into bed and process the stuff and that you are thinking about in your mind that's bringing us down? It's bringing your own vibration into a different mode of vibration. It's not about saying better than, but it's not feeling as good for us either. And this is when we start to integrate those higher levels of understanding of who we are as well. My soul vibrates in beauty of all. I can't always hold on to that vibration. Seriously, can you imagine trying to do a workout with someone and hearing others, right? So others will say, oh, that's a medium. You don't understand. This could be people that are still living. I'm hearing the souls of all. Gotcha. Right? That's the attention getter. What do you mean you're hearing the souls of all? There's a difference between I can hear the soul of anybody, which is true to, if anyone is going to come through and say, I know that vision very well, it's usually a lot of people are assuming that soul vision is of the, it's like the ever after. The all is a higher vibration where the collective visions of all of us are being brought through. And those are usually those foretelling events that Brenda will bring through. Or the global visions that are often it's like on the verge of discovery for her. She knows how to tap into them, but she chooses to ignore some of those signs of destruction because it was brought to her in the source of a vision of a family tree. And she was starting to disconnect from a family tree because those words were so strong and so heartfelt, but they were incredibly destructive in her mind because what happened was is she was confusing the facts of what was going on in her life then with what was going to be happening in the future. Do you see how that can be a little, it's like strange and struggled. So, for those of us who are on this path of the many sides of soul, to be honest, most people are more concerned about where am I in this plane? Where is my soul here? How do I deal with what I'm dealing with here? How do I struggle correctly? How many of us are thinking that we don't even know how to struggle correctly? Right? It doesn't look like why does everyone assume that we have to struggle? We don't. That's another conditioning of the spiritual paradigms and other ideas about what it means to go through these ideas of I'm changing my life just beautifully by being who I am in the moment. That's your soul will guide you gently and not reject you for one choice versus the other. That's a trigger point for some. I didn't do the right thing. What? Who cares? That's our minds. Our hearts are always saying, I'm open to a lot of different pathways. I don't need to have things laid out for me step by step, but that's the nature of what can happen. Am I wanting the best possible path, or is it the most pleasurable path? Or is it the most experiential path? Or am I ready just to take a break for a while and move on to another level of understanding? That's where a lot of people are going. We're like, we want to inhabit our abilities. We want our talents and everything brought through. Beautiful. How do we do that vision? We have to work at certain ideas. Some of us are here to learn lessons in life. Others of us are here to build upon our skills and talents that we already inhabit on the other side of the veil. Some of us will start to create books for others. That's where a lot of people go. I'm going to write a book about who I am. I'm going to tell you my experiences, and I hope to God that people read that book. I know someone who was like that. I hope people read my book. What does that say to those in the spiritual enlightenment versus those who already say, I'm just assuming everyone's going to want to read this tale of wonder? Okay? That's the difference in a lot of people's minds when they're putting forth those ideas about hope and prayer and what that sends out to the universe. This is why so many people don't realize what they're setting up. But here's the thing. How many of us have those thoughts being put out into the universe and we still get our hearts handed to us? But it's like literally, how many people assume, oh my gosh, now I've overthought things and now I've sent out all these signs to the universe that I'm not expecting things to go my way. This is where souls will come through and align people who can help you with that process. Because once you get to the path of soul, you have so many souls who are going to say, I can help. I know that work. I know how to help you guide yourself to a path of least expectation, right? How many people say, I just expect the best in my mind and boom, I'm done. I don't contemplate whether my book is going to be the bestseller or not. How many people are told by their soul what's going to happen? That's part of it. Okay? And when you guide yourself to the soul level understanding, if you're told you might want to take a walk next time because I was going to line you up with a certain soul who is going to smile and wave at you, and you're going to have a beautiful expression of love with somebody else. How about that? That's what can happen on the soul level. This one here said, I'm too tired. I'm done. She's been tired for weeks, not understanding what's been going on. She's going through, it's not a rebirthing because we've already determined that that word, it's like a loaded word. But literally, I'm being amped up in my energy source. And I don't even know why. And I don't know how or what it's going to bring me, but I'm excited for it. It doesn't mean it's bad because others keep placing change as bad. Brenda's like, my body is my heaven. That's the nature of it. She doesn't create from the place of, I'm bad. She says, I'm awesome. She's like, my mind is beautiful. I love who I am in my mind. I don't care if I create havoc for myself. Sometimes in the end, I know I love who I am, and my journey has been amazing for me. The tragedies that I have experienced have all been worth it because in essence, I love who I am in my heart and in my mind. I have struggles in my mind that take me to those places of, well, dark night of the soul, right? I experienced it once. I know how to unwind that vision very fast now. I want to guide people to an honest assessment of a tool that I use that is overdone in her mind, but we say it backs away so many other souls who come to try to create havoc for her, and that's the drama triangle. It's the Cartman drama triangle. Look it up. Enjoy the beauty of that vision. Apply it not only to yourself within your own soul, but the relationships in which you inhabit. That will help you guide you to one of those places of love for all souls. The other is always asking yourself this one simple question: is that the truth? You have to be able to step back and look at your own thoughts and potentially the thoughts of others that are trying to project onto you. If someone tells you something, and you're saying, is that true? That's when we can kind of do a little bit of self-analysis and say, no, that's not. Or maybe there is some essence of truth in everything, but does it mean I have to take it on as an identity? Okay? This is where we're going to go with people, because you're going to see some of the times I'm of heartfelt love for all. Others, I'm in this mode of, I'm going to unwind all of those ideas that are holding not just me back, but potentially others. Your soul always comes through. She defers to your soul if you're in a soul session or if you're in her vision of guidance. But when it comes to her soul, she's like, you better believe I'm going to unwind something that holds me as less than. And that's the nature of it. Okay, I'd do the same for anybody else. But she's very sensitive to those ideas of who is projecting what on me. If I'm not your cup of tea, by all means, move along. How many people, this is the strength. She gets souls who still come to her on a soul level to let her know what they prefer in life. And if it's not her cup of tea, she's like, why are you letting me know? These are people who project this out to society. I love who I am. Here's who I am. And here's what I think you should know about me. And then they wonder why that can be a little persuasive. When I start bringing through the information for other souls that are in the public sphere, that's what gets brought out for the most part. Is those ideas that we already knew that Putin admired Trump more, correct? How many people would have assumed that Putin was brushing away the soul of Trump in his mind, right? They have a relationship that's very strong. And it's a fascinating point that many will kind of start to think about. Because in essence, we assume people are one way, but what's going on behind the scenes? That's the many sides of soul. And we want to acknowledge that vision. Don't feel like you have to bring everything out, right? How many people thought this was going to be an expose on who I am? It's not about doing that, but that's what people are starting to do. It can feel that way for you when you're in the mode of guidance, right? Or of service to others, right? How many people are like, I'm putting on my, guidance cap, or I'm putting on my mom cap. We have different identities that we hold on to depending on what we're experiencing in the moment. And that's a beautiful way of looking at life. Don't ever demean the vision of guidance from anyone unless in your mind you're saying, are they actually trying to force me into believing something? Are they trying to convince me of who they think I am? Your soul will not align with a lot of the stuff that you guys are seeing on the internet. I can guarantee you that right now. Why? Because we're all worried about who we are. Oh my gosh, am I supposed to behave this way or that way? What am I saying, doing, experiencing? We're overthinking everything now because we're all so sensitive about what's going on in the world. Let me tell you what's going on in the world. Let's not overthink the idea that we're all supposed to be on the same bandwagon. That's the same thing about frequency bands, right? It's the same with issues. There's a reason we're going through what we're going through, and it's a great distraction, believe it or not, for those higher level understandings about the true destruction of the planet that would have occurred had we not had these beautiful, and some will say it's not beautiful, so we want to talk about that. But in essence, from those higher levels of understanding, that got us free from overthinking other areas, which we're not going to highlight necessarily yet, that can really cause destruction. And people will say, but the war is destruction. And we want to honor that vision because people are saying it's like tactless when people are dying. To honor a soul from the other side of the veil who says she knows what she's doing. But we are not on the brink of War 3. Others will say different. And when those souls come down to talk about whether or not we invoke that in our minds, that's when the real, true love of God, of soul, starts to come in and say, we know how to bring through those souls who know how to alter the visions of those who need to create the expansion of our guidance system to a one of understanding those global visions and what that really means. So this is not to demean the idea of what's going on, but literally we were creating a death scenario for the planet, and that was not where we needed to be. Okay, and granted, we have many souls that are coming in and out every single day with various understandings about what those events are, how they're created, and we can talk about that. But that's why I want people to start to understand the true, it's like the relativity of Einstein. His soul is there telling me, don't barter with the devil. That's his soul. He's like, there are souls here who still believe in that vision of it's of devil or it's of God. That's a soul vision that many will have to either expand into another understanding in order to get to where I'm at, or you're going to have to lift yourself up in this idea of I never have to go to that level of understanding ever again. I don't have to do those visions because, it's bypassing the vision of heaven and hell. That's what some people are going to talk about. We'll talk about that. Heaven is what you make of it. We travel along the planes of love is where I go. So with that in mind, I want to say adieu, right? This is a French-Canadian aspect of who my children are. I vibrate in it and I'm respected in it. It's because there are so many culture clashes right now, and that's why these other sets of videos are going to be coming out about the cross-cultural path to revolution and what that actually means. It doesn't mean what you think it means, and it definitely doesn't mean that it's about people trying to change who they are in an instant. It's literally a beautiful vision of love for all of us. It may trigger some who are on the path of, I think I know what a revolution is, versus, oh no, it is not what people think it is. It's part of the loving vision of holding us up while we do our own inner work for the most part. But that does not mean that our work is always going to be what other people think it is. Soul embodiment, in essence, is going to highlight those visions of those of us that know I don't just vibrate with who I am on the outside. And I'm definitely more than who I am on this plane. So with that in mind, I want to say thank you for watching. Guide yourself gently to those souls that make you feel amazing in who you are in your body and in your mind. What does that mean? Am I looked at with adoring eyes? That's a nature where some will say, it wouldn't be that way in my mind. The caretakers of our hearts are always saying that. We look outside for validation of how we are on the inside, and that's not the way to go. So with that in mind, I want to say thank you for watching. Have a beautiful day. Enjoy your wisdom. You're all guided in it. You all have your own strengths and wisdom about you. And you're planting the seeds of I love who I am even more every day, right? That's where we're headed in this vision. You start to love who you are every step of the way, whether it feels right for you or not. But that's what happens when you go to your own internal vision of what love is for you, and not necessarily what it's going to look like for someone else. So we often have to kind of distance ourselves from others' visions of who they think we are, because we often get projected different ideas, and that can come through in different ways. So again, take care and have an amazing journey in this place we called love. Goodbye.